Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, former UFC MMA fighter himself in three different weight classes in the UFC, by the way, Mr. Jason Reinhardt. Jason, welcome in. How you doing?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
What is going on in your world? How you doing?
I'm sorry, say again.
What's going on in your world? How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Just living here in New Smyrna Beach, Florida.
Now, how you doing health-wise? Everything doing okay in your world?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I just, just the normal, my back is all jacked up, but other than that, I'm perfectly healthy.
Now, as far as Shoot Pro is concerned, what's going on with Shoot Pro? Because I know you're heavily involved with my buddy Matt, the King of Connecticut, there with Shoot Pro.
Yeah, it's a cool organization. Back in the day, they're bringing back, where you can pin or submission, win by pin or submission, which I think is pretty cool.
Definitely, definitely cool. So, will you be doing? Are you? I know you're a part of the team. So, what are you going to be doing specifically for them?
Yeah, I'm if anybody 50 and over, there's a lot of fighters, sitting around, or still training, whatever, this that want to compete. And we're gonna have a masters division 50 and over. It won't be televised, but it'll be in the system.
Wow, nice. So, what's that going to look like? Like, how are you going to get the guys, and what will that kind of all, or how will that all come together?
Yeah, we're in the beginning stages of it now, but it'll be all depend on how the how it all works out. I'm not sure how that how to market that as far as looking for guys. There's more or less guys coming to us, that want to compete.
Almost like a bit of a legends division, if you will.
Well, I figured if Brazilian jiu-jitsu can have a masters division, why not shoot pro? Shoot pro wrestling. So it just gives an outlet for the retired fighter or the older fighter to get on the mats and compete.
What do you think of that element, just as far as how different that is than just jujitsu, or even from like freestyle wrestling or whatever? I mean, this is a combination of everything, right?
Yes, yes. So you'll have a lot of tough wrestlers that wrestled in college, be with Shoot Pro, and they do really well, of course. But the action is constant. It's never stale. It's an action-packed match, high intensity.
And the fact that you can have pins, which means guys like jujitsu, you can't just sit on your back and play guard and just hunt for submissions that way. You got to keep your blades up. You got to keep your shoulders off the ground.
Yeah, it definitely leans towards the explosive movements and to keep the action moving. Absolutely, and that's why people like to watch that.
Who do you think favors more, wrestlers, or does it favor a jujitsu guy who's not necessarily, like off of his back, maybe more of a top game guy?
Well, he would have to, definitely have some wrestling, because you're saying a pure wrestler and shoot pro against a guy that's just jujitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the wrestler would have the advantage, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. You got to wait for or worry about submissions though, still, right? So
Right.
little bit of give and take there.
Yeah, yeah, right. For sure.
So with you, as far as your career, and it is very fascinating. You were kind of briefly just texting me about it. Three different weight classes, right? In the UFC. I mean, how does that kind of happen, or how do you go in there three different times, three different weight classes? That's pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, it was tough, man. I mean, I see what happened is they didn't have my weight class when the UFC offered me a contract, so I moved up two weight classes to 155. I fought my career at 35, but so we didn't think they were going to have. I was approaching 40 years old, so of course I took the fight.
How did it happen? How did you get approached to do the fight just in general?
Dana White called me back in the day. He'd call, talk to you sometimes, and my manager called me too. And so it was I remember that day. It was pretty exciting. After, over 10 years trying to make it to the UFC.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the journey before that, though, where are you fighting? Are you just primarily kind of like the outlaw shows, if you will, and then King of the Cage. That was kind of primarily where you were fighting before you got the call for UFC.
Yeah, there were some at the time. There were some big organizations like the Reality Submission Fighting that we used to have Gokor and Carl Parisian, all those guys. A lot of UFC vets came out of that organization. And there was the XFO. There was Extreme Challenge. There were some really legit shows, absolutely. So that's where I trained, or that's where I fought a lot of them in. And then I had those couple fights in Japan, and yeah, and King of the Cage. Yep.
So you're basically undefeated, right, before you got to UFC, or no?
Yeah, I was 18-0, yes.
Oh, so you were undefeated. Wow. So pretty. That's kind of why you're, obviously on the radar too, right? Of a Dana White, and why you'll be getting a phone call.
Yeah, definitely records were important, for sure.
What did you think kind of coming in? Did you think, like you said, long time coming, or were you prepared? Were you nervous? What did you think about it when you first got into UFC?
Well, I mean, to be honest, man, I mean, I was brought into, lose for sure as far as build Joe Lazan up. He was up and comer, and he had just knocked out our champion, Jens Pulver. So it was a really headspace for me, man. I tried to stay positive and focus and train hard. But in reality, I kind of knew that, only way to get him is to get maybe a lucky overhand right. And that's what I did. I swung for the fences.
That's so interesting, though. It's basically, you're fighting 20 pounds above. I mean, two weight classes up. They know that too, right? I mean, when they bring you in, they know that you're like, hey, undefeated fighter, but he's fighting in a weight class that he's not really necessarily used to.
Yeah, there were two weight classes above mine, but you didn't have the 135-pound class, so nobody knew it would be like this. So, I was approaching 40, and they offered it to me. So, heck, man, you take the UFC calls, you don't say no.
Yeah, definitely not. You got to do it. And maybe,
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
said,
The
maybe
reach was crazy though. I only have a 62-inch reach, 62 and a half or something like that. But the reach was insane.
that's crazy too, because it's like, okay, you're at a big disadvantage. You never know in the fight game, right? I mean, you could, like you said, overhand right, you could get lucky, but not looking good from a technical aspect either, with him having a huge reach advantage.
Yeah, I never forget Robbie Lawler telling me, "Hey, man, just lift weights for this fight, man. Just get as big as you possibly can."
Great advice. Didn't really work out, but great advice, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
When you're looking at it, though, right? I mean, it's a great opportunity, but you lose, but then you don't come back for several years, right? So it's one of those things where it's great, but then on the other hand, they kind of should have gave you another shot right away, considering you're fighting at a weight class and you're a little bit of a disadvantage there.
right. One of those was because I had eye surgery. They canceled the fight a week before during my training camp. Colorado wouldn't accept my contacts. They said without them I couldn't see very well, and so I had to get that corrective surgery before they'd have me back, and that took about 8 months or about six, something like that.
Wow. So what happened? What happened with your eyes? What was going on
Oh,
there?
I got the eye surgery and took the fight. Got offered in the fight again in the UFC. Took the eye, got the eye surgery, let it heal, the whole healing process, and then put my and then took the next one.
What was going on though with your eyes just originally? Like, was it
Oh, just the
from
normal,
fighting or?
man. No, just the normal. You see people that aren't 2020. I see things really, far away as in the lights in the nighttime. I gotta have glasses and all that stuff.
Yep, gotcha.
Nothing
So,
serious. Nothing serious. Just a corrective vision for your, to get you back as 2020 as possible.
so you were out that whole time then. You weren't fighting at all.
No, right, exactly.
Gotcha. Not even like sparring or practicing or whatever. You were kind of out of the game completely.
No, I was always in the gym training. I was still grappling and not hard spar, light stuff.
Got to be
Hard
tough though.
grappling though.
Can't really see. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, that was I could see pretty decent after the surgery. It took a little while for it. It was called PRK surgery. So it took a little while for the vision to, come back, so yeah.
So when you returned to UFC, still out of weight class though, technically, right? Because you came at featherweight and not necessarily bantamweight.
Right. I fought the number one Chinese fighter at the time, Tia Quan Zhang, and he was at 145. So that was a little better, better than 55. So I signed it, 145. That was my fight to win, man. That was crazy.
What happened there? What happened with the loss?
Yeah, we knew he had a great guillotine choke, but he did something weird. He put your head in the center of his chest. I didn't really ever seen that before, and so he grabbed hold of my neck, and I went to sleep.
Man, the the
And,
opportunity is
and
great, but
40 and 40
sometimes the
and
weight classes.
45 in 45 seconds. So that's the shitty part, and
Yep.
afterwards his camp come up to me and they said you almost got out of it. And if I would have got out, he was in big trouble because he was gassed because he had the flu 2 weeks before the fight. The whole time in Australia, he had the flu. And I was like, oh man, don't tell me that.
Damn. So he needed to get out of there early. Like he needed to finish the fight right
Yeah,
away.
yeah, for real. He was at the flu, man. So I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my God. And again, like you said, you get an opportunity, UFC comes knocking, you can't turn it down. But man, right, you're a little bit out of weight class. Not terribly with featherweight, 10 pounds up, but still out of the weight class, out of the division.
Right. The reach has always been my kryptonite, the reach, trying to overcome that reach.
Yep. Man, it's crazy though. What could have been right there? Then you did have one final fight with UFC, finally in your own weight class, finally in bantamweight. So what happened with that against
Yeah.
Figueroa?
He just whipped my ass, man. He just he hit me with a liver shot in the beginning of the first round, and I had no energy. I cut a lot of weight for that fight because I was trying to always be heavier for the other fights, right, as heavy as possible. So I had my weight cut, and that took a lot out of me. I got in that cage, I had nothing, and he whipped my ass. Really, the other fights I didn't get my ass whooped, but he whipped my ass for real.
Was that pretty much the end of your career then and there?
Yeah.
That was the end of your run. Why though? Just you thought you just didn't have it anymore?
Yeah, man, I've always suffered from this back problem, and so the whole time I was fighting, after I broke my neck, I wasn't even supposed to be fighting ever again, and I went on, 14 years after I broke my neck, but paid a heavy price though. I paid on that deal because like I was telling you, I got addicted to the opiates, the pain pills.
Man, that's got to be terrible because you got this horrible neck injury. These guys are trying to, yeah, kill you for real, basically, and then you go on that to get over the pain. I mean, that's just like a horrible cycle to go through.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that's over, man. I was 15 years I was hooked on those things, and the withdrawals are horrendous, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Now, you mentioned too that the addiction, but getting over it and maybe helping somebody else get over it, or helping somebody see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I never mind bringing this up because there's a lot of people suffering with addiction, man. And whether it's alcohol, prescription drugs, whatever, they're all drugs. And so I just want them to know that, I was hopeless 15 years of being on opiates, fighting around the world. And I was on every pill you can imagine for pain. And, so it came with a heavy price and I had no hope whatsoever. So, I've been clean now 4.5 years. So I had to get professional help. Some people don't. I had to get, go and check myself into a rehab and I never looked back. You got to really want to get off of the whatever that's got you crippled.
How do you do it? Like, is it just something that one day you just say you got to get over it, or how do you kind of go through the process?
For me, it was just, I was just tired of it, just tired of being imprisoned to those pills, imprisoned to them, because if you didn't have them, you'd get deathly sick. And so, yeah, I tried to quit on my own before, and I wasn't having it wasn't happening. And so I needed to, get professionally detoxed. Is what I personally needed. Some people don't, but yeah, it's a trap that you. It's a very hard trap. Addiction is.
And you said you went to rehab. How do you kind of get over it and maintain it? Because so many guys will go in rehab and then maybe fall right back into the addiction. So how do you kind of stay sober for 4 years plus?
Yeah, man. If first of all, if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. And if I have a thought of a pain pill, I change the thought, whether it's changing the TV, jumping in the shower. But if it comes on me hard, I change the thought. Everything is a thought after it's out of your system. It's physical addiction too, but after it's out of your system, then everything becomes just a thought, man. And you can break it down like that. And that's how I stay. That's one of the ways I stay clean.
So a lot of mental energy there you're putting towards making sure you never lose focus, right? I mean, just keep
Right.
on keeping on.
Right, you got to realize the trap, the whatever you're suffering from, you get off of. You got to realize how it got you there, and the horrible feeling, and the withdrawals and the hangovers and all that stuff. You got to look at the bad, all the time that you spend on it, and take away from people, your family, time. You can't ever get that back. So it's great being clean and sober.
How did it happen originally? Like you said, with the broken neck, how did that? Was it during a fight or was it during training? How did you initially get the injury?
Well, I went to a chiropractor, man. No offense against him. It just I went to this guy, and man, something didn't seem right after he adjusted my neck. And I go to chiropractors, but this guy, something didn't seem right. I started getting a pain down my right arm, my left arm, for my training camp. And I remember in the back room having somebody rub icy hot on me and just hitting my arm to get rid of the nerve pain. And that it was already going to happen, but I went out there anyway and fought. And then it ended up having the injury once I got the arm lock on the guy, and he picked me up and slammed me twice. And then in the second slam, he actually made the arm lock tighter and tapped, because the force, So yeah, that's how it happened.
Wow, crazy. So it was like kind of a little bit of a quack to talk to the chiropractor.
Yeah, he actually ended up killing himself. He was,
God.
I guess he had a lot of problems, but yeah, it was just weird how after I went to him, my neck started not feeling right, and then it started getting worse, and then it happened in the fight, breaking it.
And you were champion at that point, right? Or no?
Yeah, in another organization, I had the regional title, and then that was for a title fight, so I won the belt on that one.
Man, with the crazy world of MMA, just thinking about that, it's nuts. Like you're fighting a guy and you're injured or you possibly have a broken neck or you know what I mean. It's just crazy to even get into the fight with that type of
Back
injury.
back then, man, we had a mentality of never pulling out of a fight. So, you didn't have that a lot, to be honest with you. You didn't have a lot of guys pull out of fights. We are just happy to be there and get the opportunity. It was like a subculture. It was just a great part of my life.
Do you think though maybe you regret a little bit of that though? Like maybe being a tough guy isn't necessarily smart sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I might be really injured here.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely don't recommend that if something's wrong with your neck or something major. You can tell a difference between a small little injury, nagging aches and pains versus an actual injury. So I would suggest not going in there, and I'd suggest going and get medical care for sure, especially on your neck.
Crazy. When you look at your MMA run, like how do you actually get in originally? What's your background? Were you an amateur wrestler, or what was your background as far as before even getting into MMA?
Yeah, I taekwondo. I competed in taekwondo throughout my whole childhood. Nationals and state and the AAU Junior Olympics, and then when I turned 18, I moved to St. Louis, Missouri area outside of St. Louis called Edwardsville, Illinois, and I opened up my first taekwondo school at 18.
Wow, it's pretty impressive to be able to do that. And that is what like that leads you to MMA, or like was there not enough money in Taekwondo, and you're seeing, hey, this sport's popping up here. There might be some, you know, real cheese here.
Yeah, it's just, like everybody, we saw Hoist Gracie fight. We're amazed at how he could take somebody down and submit somebody and choke them. And we're just mesmerized by that. And so a lot of us sought out jujitsu. And I did judo for a couple years because I couldn't find a jiu-jitsu academy. And I finally found a jiu-jitsu academy. And then I started going there. It was about an hour away from my house and started going there every night, and it just started. Then that led into the MMA fighting, and me going to Iowa, meeting everybody at Militich Fighting Systems. I would go there for my training camps.
So would you say Pat is your trainer, if you will, your lead trainer?
Yeah, he was all of our trainers. He was the guy that. But we learned a lot also off of Jeremy Horn and guys like that. Jeremy was instrumental in our jiu-jitsu game. Pat was the master. He oversaw everything.
So you were a big fan of MMA.
Oh, huge. Yeah, that's all I thought about. That's all I talked about. I drove my wife nuts, I'm sure.
When you're looking at it, right? Are you thinking like this is a life choice? Or are you thinking like, oh, I'm going to make some money? Or are you thinking like this is going to be my profession? I'm going to be a professional fighter.
No, I was just going in there, man, because I was training jujitsu and still had my taekwondo school, and I just honestly, and teaching, them the jujitsu part. I just wanted to, put my money where my mouth was. What I'm teaching you can work and in real life. So that's what got me to the cage. And then after that, it just progressed. It was a way of life. I never really, dreamed of being a UFC champion or nothing like that. That wasn't even in on the radar. I was just happy to be there and make it there. That's it. And then if I won, I won. If I lost, I lost. I never had any delusions of grandeur to get the UFC title or anything like that. It was more of a lifestyle. It's very hard to explain. It was a passion like I've never felt anything else like it.
How do you start getting like noticed and booked? Is that through Pat and Jeremy Horn and those guys? Like, how do you actually kind of get noticed and start moving up the ranks?
Yeah, we were lucky to have such a great manager, Monty Cox. He managed a lot of our fights, and he had a lot of the connections, to Japan and all around the world. At one time, he was the man as far as managing all the top level guys. I was just happy to be along for the ride, bro. I knew I was fighting out of my weight class, man. I wasn't, so I was just happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah, but going great for a while though. Like you said, 18-0 to start off. So, great start.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah, yeah, for sure. I always tried to finish the fight with jujitsu.
Looking right at it as you're kind of slowly moving up the ranks, and you're getting better, you're getting booked. Are you thinking? I know you said you're not thinking delusion of grandeur as far as being like UFC champion or anything like that, but are you thinking like, oh man, like this sport is for me. This is like perfect. Maybe not. Maybe forget Taekwondo, but maybe forget Taekwondo for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's how it was. I ended up closing my taekwondo, giving my taekwondo school away to the Korean guy, then stepped away. And then I opened my MMA gym to help all the fighters locally, and people wanted to train. So you didn't have to drive so far. So I opened one of those up it was a Militich Fighting System associate gym, affiliate gym. So we had that. That was great.
Looking at the world of MMA now, do you still follow it, or are you still a fan?
Yeah, I teach MMA twice a week. So yeah, I watch the UFC. It's not like I used to at all, man. I would watch fights constantly, and but when a big fight's happening, I'm interested. Sure, I watch some of the boxing too, but I'm not like crazy like I was for sure.
Who do you think is like some of the best guys today, as far as who you've seen in like UFC or MMA?
Oh man, like a lot of people, I'm really fascinated with Ilya Tapora. I find his boxing is just so precise, and everything is so tight and not telegraphed. And like if he hits you with 1, 2, you know, 3, 4, and 5 are coming. You know, he's constantly doing these combos and he's overwhelming people. He boxes like a pro boxer in there.
He's obviously undefeated too for a while. He's knocking off guys left and right, and not only knocking them off, knocking them out.
Yeah, look at
And
him. He moved up. He moved up in weight class and check.
yep.
That just shows you how special that guy is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because sometimes guys move up in weight classes like, oh, he lost his power, or he's not as fast, or you know what I mean. There's
Right.
something, but he didn't lose anything. He gained almost.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting. Watch. I just think the guy's a class act. You know what I mean?
And then all those Russian fighters, they just seem like
Oh,
are all not undefeated, but almost undefeated. I mean, they're all like
yeah.
unbelievable.
Khabib's my favorite, man. How he uses his legs, his arms, and everything. It's crazy that grappling of his.
Man, some of those guys, it's funny. It's like, man, what do they grow up fighting bears or whatever, wrestling bears? These guys are they're unstoppable sometimes. It's crazy.
Right. Absolutely, man.
Looking at some of the boxing, are you into Jake Paul at all, or do you like the gimmick of it? Do you like any of those fights? He's beating a lot of MMA guys.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, at first I didn't like the guy, but then I started thinking, man, this guy, if you think about it, a guy's career in boxing in the beginning, they fight, people that aren't, known at all. They fight very low level competition to build their record up. And in boxing, that's common. And so, but Jake's look at the guys he's fought as amateurs. I know that's his boxing amateur career. So it seems like because he just started boxing, so he didn't really get an amateur career. So with that being said, I think it's pretty impressive what he's done.
Yeah, knocking off Anderson Silva, Ben Askren, Woodley. I mean, a bunch of
Yeah.
MMA guys. Mike Perry just knocking them off one by one. Mike Tyson, even. I know not MMA, but 60-year-old legend. But still, Jake Paul, it's a big win on the resume.
Yeah, I don't, he's the guy can box. He can box. I'm not saying he's going to be some crazy world champion,
Right.
super talented. He could win the world title. Who knows? But um, he can definitely box.
More of a gimmick, right?
Yeah, but I mean, but he can for real box. He hits hard. I mean, that's from what I can tell, But yeah, you know,
Yeah, definitely. Now, you mentioned training, right? But I was really curious because I saw you with this 7 foot giant. Are you a manager for a pro wrestler now? What's going on with this?
no, no, man. I went one time with my friend Matt, the King of Connecticut, in Granaham. And I went one time to my first, well, actually second. When I was a kid, I went once years ago, but I went to a WrestleCon where they have the WWE type wrestling, and
Yep.
I met all kinds of people, man, that I saw as a kid, and because I only watched it, but you would be on the TV, you'd catch names and stuff, but I only watched or went to one professional wrestling event in my life. And I went with Matt to this WrestleCon. And man, I just was fascinated by this one booth at this guy, 7'4", 390 pounds. It was just, I'd never seen a man that big before. I've seen a lot of big guys too. And we just started talking. And so, kind of hit it off. And I don't know, I was trying to help him along with Matt to try to get some auditions to the WWE. We're working on it, but I'm definitely no manager. If I can help any way I can.
So you
Hey, man.
technically, yep, no
Yeah,
problem. So you're technically not his manager, technically.
Yeah, well, he wants me to. He says I can manage him and stuff, but no, no. If somebody else would come along that could get him somewhere other than where I can help get him, of course I want it. Whatever's best for him, man. I just want to see the guy make it. He's a good guy. He's athletic. I mean, 7'4" with abs, 390 pounds. And he works
What's
hard.
his name?
He's
What's
a former NFL player. I mean, an NBA player. Um,
Do you
so
remember his name, or what is
yeah,
his name?
Peter Ramos. Peter
Oh,
Ramos. He
okay.
he played from Puerto Rico.
He is a big, big dude. Scary. Has an awesome look to him.
Yeah, that's what I say, man. I can't believe the WWE hasn't picked him up. He can wrestle too.
And the height difference between you guys was like it made him even look even bigger somehow, right? I mean, yeah, that was crazy. You
Right.
guys together.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. I had a lot of
So
fun
as we hit,
I had a lot of fun there.
yeah. So you were enjoying hanging out with the king and all the wrestlers at the WrestleCon.
Yeah, right. I met Kurt Angle and stuff. It was cool. He's a class act.
Awesome. And obviously an Olympic gold medalist. He won the gold medal with a broken neck. So
Yeah, we talked about it, man. It was pretty. He knew the doctor that I had to get mine done from.
oh wow, small world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So as we hit the wind down here, head towards the finish, where could everybody find and follow you and see what you're up to next, and maybe even your school?
Yeah, I teach in Daytona Beach, Florida, at Nomad Jiu Jitsu in Holly Hill, Florida, actually, just a suburb of Daytona. I teach there, and they can reach me on Facebook. That's on my messenger.
All right. And of course, Shoot Pro, right? We got to be on the lookout for anything and everything Shoot Pro. And hopefully we'll see you and maybe a Legends division regarding Shoot Pro as well.
Right, right. We're looking for people that are guys that are 50 and over that want to compete in a match at Shoot Pro. So you go to shootprowrestling.com. People can go there, shootprowrestling.com, or just message me.
I,
Pat Miletich is the president of Shoot Pro Wrestling.
yes. I
Yeah,
actually asked Pat if he'd like to a match against me. I'm an amateur, basically a blue belt here in jiu-jitsu, but I said, Pat, let's do it. I want to test myself. He said, no, I'm retired. I won't do it. Oh, come on, Pat. But Matt thinks I could talk him into it. So he's like, maybe talk to Jason and try to get it going. I'm like, all right, I'll ask him.
oh shit. I don't know, man. I don't know. Pat looked good in his last fight, though. I mean,
That's what I was a little afraid of. Yeah, that's what I was scared of. Yeah.
right, right.
Anybody's a former champion too. They can turn on that switch.
Right, right, for sure.
All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it tonight.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, and hope everybody stays safe.